Welcome back to the weekend show. Joining us now, Mr. Ovo Otarigho, who is the coordinator of Young African Leadership's Initiative, Yali Network Abuja. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me today.
We have Dr. Nzerem, who is a doctor of optometry. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me as well.
Very lastly, we have Mr. Segun Oshinaga, who is an author, speaker, trainer, coach, and an APC faithful. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Today's topic is how we choose our leaders, leadership selection process. We would also be looking into, the views of Nigerians about the leadership selection process. What exactly is the criteria we use to choose these leaders? So I'll start with you, Ovo, because you work with a lot of young people, and the young people have been castigated, maligned, especially in the electoral process, for far too long. Right. As a young man specifically, what do you look for in a leader when you're going out to vote? If you go out to vote. Do you have your PVC, by the way?
I have my
PVC.
Okay. Getting to choose a leader, the first thing personally I look out for is the ethical standard and moral values of the person. My reason is simple. If you have to lead a democratic process and you will be a person of influence, then you should be the best of conduct. Because if a candidate who leads a nation has ethical issues or moral issues, it's very difficult for such a person to promote the rule of law, which is one of the key points of democracy. The second thing I look at in judging a candidate or voting for a candidate is what are his plans for the people? Because democracy responds to the needs of the people. What problems do you intend to solve? Do you have a manifesto? Does the manifesto demonstrate the how? It's not enough to say, I'm going to give roads, build roads, and all that. Does the manifesto contain the how I'm going to do that? Most mistake voters make is people take the words written in those manifesto for it, and for that, they go to the ballot. It's not enough. We should ask questions. A candidate running for election coming to a particular village and says, I will build train station for you. Meanwhile, they don't have potable water to drink. That's misplaced priority. Why would I vote for such a person?
Most definitely. Let me bring you in here, Dr. Nzerem. We've seen a lot of people attribute our third worldness to the fact that our leaders are not competent enough. So since the advent of our democracy, they believe that we haven't had a leader in this country, in this nation, with a long-term development plan and the competency to carry out that plan. What's your reaction to this?
Okay, first of all, the way we look at leadership, there's a little things that are wrong about it in this part of the country. We look at leaders as though there's a planet where we pick leaders from and bring down to rulers. But leaders are not different from us as individuals. In fact, we pick our leader from among us. So they're actually a representation of who we are as a people. And that's one. Two, when we point fingers at the leaders that are not doing well, we always forget the fact that there are four fingers pointing back at us. The failure in leadership is not entirely the problem of the leaders. It's also a failure on our part for being bad followers. What do I mean by this? We realize that in the leadership selection process, most times we don't interrogate the leadership selection process. We don't ask critical questions. Critical questions that borders on integrity. Critical questions that borders on competence. Critical questions that borders on track record. That's what, when you bring in a long-term investment projects, if we ask critical questions, we should be able to interrogate whatever manifesto the person is. Like I stated before, the manifesto doesn't end by the thing we have on the papers. We need to interrogate it. If you say you are going to do this, what is your narrative? How do you intend to do this? You need to interrogate that narrative. Is it a feasible narrative? Or is it just a mere campaign promise? So if we begin to do that, we realize that we will be able to know what each leader stands for. Not just by the time of election, what he had stood for over the long period of time we have known him. We should be able to make an informed choice and pick persons who can actually trace and say,
Mr. Segun, let me bring you in here. You're an APC faithful.
Yes, ma'am.
That means you're dedicated to the cause, the manifesto, the blueprint of the APC.
Yes,
so for issues such as restructuring, because I pride this show on discussing issues rather than just politics.
Yes.
So on issues such as restructuring, which is in the manifesto of the All Progressives Congress, are you happy that such a fundamental ideology, such a key policy narrative has not been implemented by your party?
The issue of restructuring is fundamental to making Nigeria work. You will understand that at independence, Nigeria ran a better structure of government than we did now until the military came and turned out to a unitary government. I sincerely believe that APC will get to it. They've done, a committee was set up, a report has come out, and I'm sure that in the second term that will be worked out.
Okay.
Let's come back to you, Segun.
Yeah.
I noticed that Ovo and Dr. Nzerem earlier spoke about integrity, ethical value, morality, and most times we get derailed by that and forget to look at the core competence of the candidate.
Yeah.
So I remember COA Party during their selection process, they got the candidates to write exams. And so let's remember that these leaders are the ones who are in charge of assenting to certain bills or also passing the bills in the legislature. So this is executive and the legislative arm. Don't you think we need to look more into what these people bring to the table beyond their integrity and their personal recognition?
Yeah, absolutely. They all come together. A man who doesn't have integrity, no matter how competent he may be, you will find that he will still do things right. The biggest problem Nigeria has is that we have selfish, greedy leaders. And like he said, they are a reflection of us. It's so easy to come here and criticize our leaders. If you were to replace them, you will do exactly the same. Values have been so devalued in Nigeria that people see political office as a means to get money. The reason why people kill themselves to get into office is because everybody sees it is the only way to become a billionaire. And so those values and restructuring will play a part in that it will be based on merit, based on competence, based on integrity. But don't forget that we are coming from a background, a bastardized environment. And I'll tell you the truth. I was just saying to somebody before we came in here that democracy hasn't helped us too much, unfortunately. It hasn't helped us too much. Okay. Look at Rwanda. Look at countries that are working, comparative third world countries that are working. China is still likely a third world country. Rwanda has made such a tremendous leap.
But they practice democracy.
Oh, well, modified democracy.
Oh, so the APC is calling for modified democracy.
No, not the APC. I'm talking as Segun Oshinaga. I am not officially asked to speak for APC, okay? I'm talking about me.
But I thought as an APC faithful, you guys share the same ideology.
I am not an official APC spokesperson. Okay. So these are my ideas.
Your personal views.
Now, what I'm saying is that if you look at countries that are working, third world countries that are working, it's not the kind of democracy we practice that they practice.
They abuse the rule of law. That's what they are insinuating without stating clearly.
Well, to tell you the truth, Rwanda is working because the man is a strong man,
and sometimes they waive the rule of law.
Hold on. You have human rights and you don't have human anything to eat. What is the use of it? Rwanda is working. The guy does not broke opposition. People who are using Rwanda, I mean, like my friend and sister Obi Kwesili, talk about the president of Rwanda. But she can't say the things she's saying here and there and be free. So what I'm saying is that our model of democracy is not working.
But basically,
sorry, I
okay,
think
Ovo
I
has
agree,
something to
I think
say.
I agree with Andy on the competence of who should lead us, because it's the highest office in the country in terms of the president, or the highest office in the state for governor. So if we're going to choose these leaders, they should be people of competence. Integrity is good. It's one of the criteria.
Yeah,
but that's not the only thing we must look at. Competence, because you will make economic decisions on behalf of your people as a president or as a governor. If you don't have the competence, how do you make this judgment? When we give job conditions for civil service, we look for first class, 2-1, 2-2. People hardly go for third class. But when it comes to executive position, we can accept anything. I think we should look more on competence.
You know, when you say competence, I think it's very interesting. Yes, while I agree with you, some of our leaders, especially this political season, we've realized that they haven't even met the basic criteria to become either governor, president, senator, minister, whatever the situation is. Some of them don't even have YX certificate. Some of them don't have NYC certificate.
Some forged certificates.
Some forged certificates. Recently, we saw that the YX had gone to the villa to present the president with his attestation certificate. It might be politics, but some people from opposing parties had said that that certificate was forged. So my question now is, if our leaders are not even meeting the basic criteria to become a leader, are we dreaming if we're trying to demand of them anything more? Doctor, let me bring you in on that.
Well, I think the issue of qualification, ordinarily for leadership positions, doesn't reflect your capacity.
Come on now.
That's one. But that doesn't mean that you're exempting a person who doesn't meet the requirement. The requirement was set there to meet certain standards. So now, if we say a person is qualified by his capacity, by his proven capability, up to the extent that we overlook his inability to meet the set standard, we are setting a very bad precedent as well. So now we need to find a middle point to balance it out. One is, as a country, if we need to move forward, first of all, we need to actually adhere strictly to laid down rules. That's number one definition of integrity. No matter whatever it is, no matter whoever is involved. The persons who are in political offices who are alleged not to have acquired the basic certificates required for them to be in that offices, persons who are forged. The truth is this: we have come to a point where we dramatize so many things in order to cover up for our inadequacies. The rules are outright. They are clear.
Can you be a bit specific?
Okay. If we are going to, let's take the president, for instance. There have been so much ado about the president and his certificate. I believe, me as a person, I am not convinced that the president had come out clearly to tell us the clear truth about the situation. There's a lot of things that was not still known. That's why you see that they are bringing out the information in tranches. Every season comes with its own information. In 2015, it was a certificate, a statement of results from the university, the secondary school in Katsina, which a lot of people did not agree with. A different thing in 2018, going into 2019 elections. Now, it's a very simple thing. The law asks you, the basic requirement of the law is that you must have attended up to this level of education or
is equivalent.
Yeah.
The president actually went ahead to tell people he had a school certificate that he cannot produce.
Dr. Nzerem, but let me just chip in. Yeah. Would you say the presence or absence of that certificate has affected his leadership, him being a leader?
Like I said earlier on, that shouldn't be the yardstick to measure the extent to which a leader can succeed.
So why are we dwelling on it?
But the thing is this, in as much as it shouldn't be the only yardstick to measure, it's a precedent that needs to be laid. It's a requirement that someone had to attend. If we are going to if you are going to get to a leadership position, you should first meet that leadership position. But that doesn't mean it is not the only
basic requirement. We spoke to everyday Nigerians on the streets. Here's what they had to say.
Personally, he must be educated. He must have influence on the masses, positive influence on the masses. Bill Clinton, former president of America, says, for a public office holder who is contesting for such, must be seen as a person in that office. Number 2, he must have a policy. And number 3, he must also be wealthy so that we're able to finance his campaign. And that will help him not to dip his hand into the national treasury. So for me, I think that is key. Policy, how connected your influence on the society. Do you know what the society needs? If you have the needs of, if you understand the needs of society, you'll be able to fix their needs.
For me, it has to do with personal integrity. I don't care whether you're from my zone or you are of my religion. It has to do with your personal integrity.
First, the kind of history of the person. I would like to know who the person is over time. And then, if he had been a politician before, what did he do when he was in office? Did he deliver on his campaign promises? Religion is not really the thing, because everybody is living in the country, diverse religions in the country, but we need somebody who put the country together and as one and move us forward.
Normally, when everyone talk about humility, then everything will be right. Everything will be going free. We are not checking religion. We are not talking about tribalism. It's humility.
I think we have to check the qualification of the person, what the person has done for his or her community in the past. And you see, you don't have to choose according to tribe or religious sentiment. I mean, I think when you check what the person has done in the past, that's the best way to choose a political leader.
It's not by religion. It's not to follow a religion or to follow even a political party. But it's to check for somebody that is very credible. Somebody that can be able to hold that post, in fact, effectively. Somebody that is not biased. Somebody that is not sentimental. In fact, that is the kind of person that is fit to be a leader in any post, being presidential, governor, House of Assembly member, National Assembly member, and whosoever.
Welcome back, Mr. Segun. You heard the voices of everyday Nigerians. What's your reaction to that?
I think, you see, the problem with politics in Nigeria, there are several fold. Number one, and that's critical, is that we have a wrong perception that derives from wrong values about politics. Many people come into politics now, it's not because they want to serve. It's because they think that is the only way you can have a retinue of cars going before you and after you.
Security protection.
And all of that, and becoming famous, all that. We need to begin to recruit those who sincerely love people. People who have a heart, a God-given heart for the masses.
2 minutes.
And when we don't have enough critical mass of such good people, the worst of us are governing the best of us. Most decent people run away from politics, but it is dirty. It is dirty because there are dirty people in there. Let the clean people come in. It's the critical mass. When you go to ward meetings, how many people do you find there? You found the thugs, the touts, the garage boys, the roughnecks.
Okay, Segun, as much as we always talk about good people, we have only a couple of minutes to go, and so we'll just take final words. But we've noticed that in the Vox Pop, a lot of people spoke about religion and tribe. Do you think that plays a major role regardless of competence or capability. So we'll start with you, Dr. Nzerem. 30 seconds and then Ovo. Final words.
Well, religion ordinarily shouldn't have played a role in the system. But you know, religion thrives in an environment where poverty prevails. So that's why people, especially our politicians, are used as an exploitative means.
Yes.
Now it had become a divisive factor. It had made people not to think the way they're supposed to think. When you bring when they want to confuse people, they divide them along religion. It had played a role it ought not to have played.
So what's the solution? The
solution still boils down to what I said at the starting point. We need to participate actively in the process. We need people who are citizens. Because you realize in the country, we have many persons who are real citizens and not interested in the country. They are disenchanted due to one reason or the other. But the truth is, this is the only country we could call our own. We need to get involved, and whatever you think we could do in our individual home, in individual businesses, and make it work. We need to put that expertise at play in politics, and you need to let it reflect.
Let's just hear Ovo's final word.
Okay, so
very briefly.
As part of my final words, I would say that in the 2019 election, I would encourage that the rule of law should be upheld. There should be transparency and accountability in the process. Then I agree with one of the ordinary Nigerians shown on the TV that we must look at the lifestyle of our public leaders before choosing them. Who were they before they came out to contest for positions?
That's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much, Dr.
Last
Mr. Segun.
Last
word.
There are only two religions in Nigeria. There are only two tribes in Nigeria, the poor and the rich. They just use religions and tribes to confuse us for their political advantage.
Mr. Segun, Ovo, Doctor, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
We'll take a break right now. When we return, the sports segment of the weekend show. You don't want to miss it. So much has happened this week, so stay tuned to the weekend.